one thing every business owner or founder should do? That is just so difficult to put your finger on, because I would say that you need to be 100% committed. You need to have a really firm strategy and have that obsessive vision, I think. And you need to ensure that you're surrounded by phenomenal people who are, in my opinion, need to be way more talented than you, different to you, so that you can add to the diversity. You need to give yourself time sort of doing the things that you love, to try and balance the hard work and the long hours that you are going to have to put in, no bones about it. You got to look after your health. And so, because if you don't have your health, and I know from having gone through burnout about 5 years ago, there's nothing, you can't support anybody else, so you need to be able to set expectations and not be too hard on yourself. Maybe don't give second chances, but then that could be a bit harsh. That rash decision thing. There are so many things, but that one core pillar is, I think, look after your health.
If you don't have a team, do you still need leadership skills? This month, we are talking to solopreneurs, business owners in companies of one. And we're going to be trying to answer that question, but also hearing all about their journeys, how they've ended up in business on their own, why they made that decision, what they do, where their passions lie, and the leadership lessons they've all learned along the way. And the first of those guests is Emma Friendship-Kilburn of EmmPower Sales and Marketing. We will be talking about Emma's leadership journey, her experiences so far, what she does, why she does it, why she's so passionate about sales and marketing, and the difference it makes for SMEs in particular. We'll also touch on some of the challenges of being an entrepreneur, of going it alone, a few shared experiences there as well, the balance between things like creativity and execution, getting the job done, managing your time, looking after your health and yourself, and much more besides, all of it relevant to any entrepreneur, any leader, any manager in the audience. So if you are one of those, you're in the right place. And as always, don't forget to check those show notes or listen to the end to hear how you can get in touch with today's guest or learn more about leading with integrity.
Welcome to the Leading with Integrity podcast. Leadership talk for the modern manager. With your host, David Hatch.
Emma, welcome to Leading with Integrity. It's great to have you on the show. It's been a little while coming, this one. We've been organising it for a while, haven't we? But it's finally here, so welcome.
It has indeed been a little while. Well, I'm very, very pleased to be here. I'm very pleased to have been invited on, David. It's lovely to see you this morning and
Likewise.
get an opportunity to discuss all things leadership, which, as a Leo, renowned for our our preference of great leadership, it's a topic I'm very interested in. So, wonderful to be here this morning. Thank you.
Great. Well, I'm interested in hearing more about your business, so I think we should start with that. So, what's your story so far? What do you do? Why do you do it?
Well, gosh. The reasons that I got into running my own business would definitely sort of flow from being a child and just wanting to be a businesswoman. I mean, I can remember that as early as I can remember, I wanted to run my own business, and I didn't even know what that meant. Of course I didn't, but I would be sort of enacting various sort of authoritative figures, I guess. And it was always something that I was interested in pursuing and sort of assumed that I would do one day, to be honest. I don't know about you, how early on you knew, but you wanted to do it.
Yeah, very much the opposite.
Really?
Yeah, for me it was like fighter pilot or astronaut, all the cliche things.
Yeah.
And then I sort of fell into it and didn't really plan to do it, but never mind. I love it.
A happy accident.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, I mean, so I always sort of assumed that I would be running my own ship of some sort at some point. And when I did start, my career working for sort of small but very ambitiously growing businesses, and given a lot of opportunities, as you are in an SME when you're wearing all these different hats, and working alongside the CEO or the MD of the business, because I was a PA or looking after HR, head of HR, and I got to learn so many different aspects of how a small business really ticks and how it becomes successful, and of course the pitfalls to avoid as well. And after having travelled, I went sort of postponed all normal career stuff and went off travelling for 10 months. And whilst I was travelling, I wrote a business plan for a really cool business idea that was in the sort of food and hospitality retail sphere. But because I didn't have any experience in that arena, I wasn't able to get funding for it. So I thought, I'll go back and do sales and marketing for a tech company and save the money myself. And that's what I did. But whilst I was out networking for said company and not having the best leadership at that business, which didn't make me feel engaged and sort of wanted really, whilst I came across opportunities to freelance whilst out for, networking for them, I seized it. And within 2 months of setting up the business, I had my first client, and that was over 9 years ago. It was my official business birthday this month.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, 9 years is an impressive number, I have to say.
Yeah, I guess to have managed to stick it out and get there through all sorts of trials and tribulations. What is the stat? It's like most don't make it past 3 years or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's 5 years, I think, is the big one. It's less than 50% in the UK anyway.
Yes.
Yeah, and I guess it gets lower the more years ahead you go from there. But
yeah, or maybe it's like that, the 7-year rule of relationships, that if you're still talking to someone after 7 years, that they're likely to be in your life forever, and that cycle continues.
Didn't know that one. Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe if you get past that point, that's it. You're safe. You're headed in a great direction.
Yeah, absolutely. So I find it quite interesting that you had that seed of the idea that I want to be a business owner, I want to run a company from such an early age. Because I joked about the fighter pilot and the astronaut thing, but I think most kids, that's the sort of thing that they want to do. It's something like nuts.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I had all of the out there sort of star something dramatic and creative, which, as you know, I do on the other side of my dual life that I live. So it's quite weird that both of those really strong drivers for me, or inspirations, have certainly both been realised. So, but gosh, I mean, I definitely had lots of different stops along the way. I had a period where I wanted to be a policewoman. I mean, I get quite distracted, but it's funny that I've ended up in this position, really.
Yeah. So, I mean, it begs the next question. Like, so obviously the sales and the marketing side of it, what you do today, what you've been doing for 9 years, effectively. I mean, to keep doing something that long, you have to be pretty passionate about it, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I know I'm just passionate about helping people, I think, but with really constructive, empowering sort of help, and I
hence the business name, of course.
Exactly. That leads into, it's not just my powers supporting the small businesses, but it is empowering them to do more and create more, build a bigger, stronger, more efficient business for themselves. So, I mean, the sort of reason that I really am so passionate about helping small businesses in particular succeed with their sales and their marketing is I really love to see people make strides, with their business and sort of see results from, strategic action that's been taken. So as I said before, working with those small businesses who are really ambitiously grown from the leadership perspective, and so much was changing and building, and I guess that really appealed to me. As I say, small businesses have to wear so many different hats, and they just have to be so adaptable and so agile, and I just love that. There is never a dull moment in a small business. You learn so much rather than potentially being in your one little silo and things moving slowly. I did do a 3-month contract for an enormous business where there were 10,000 people on site. And it was in the aerospace industry, so you probably know them well. And oh my goodness, getting anything done. I mean, it was for me personally, it was dull. So in the role that I was in, I was helping solving problems for people, but and the compliance side of things. But yeah, so I really love the fast pace that decisions are made within SMEs. I love the fact that you can be so much more creative, you can test things, and yeah, just without as many barriers, I guess. And I find the stories so inspirational of the individuals I get to work with. So you can get so much closer to people when you're working with smaller businesses, and hearing about, just like we're talking about today, hearing about people's life stories and what has driven them to be doing what they're doing. If you know more about the person and what drives them, then you're able to help them better. And I guess that is sort of part of leadership, is asking the right questions, listening, and then feeding that into then how you act. So yeah, I really like small business owners are often people who are really, really good at something or have had a fantastic idea. And then, of course, it's just formed itself into this business, a bit like you sort of fell into it because you were great at something and people gave you the opportunity. And I just love that journey really, and helping them. Sort of they're proficient in one thing, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they then know how to sell it, how to package it, how to get the right messaging to the right audience, what processes to put in place, the actual strategy that goes behind taking this amazing thing that they see in one dimension, turning it around on its head and making it appeal to the people that obviously they need to be doing business with to maintain it as a business. So I guess all of those things I really enjoy.
Yeah. I mean, the passion comes through very clearly just in those last 5 minutes of listening to you. I mean, there's so many things in there that were ringing bells for me as well. So I mean, the whole small business thing, so I've even before starting what I do now, pretty much my entire career has been in SMEs. And so a lot of what you're saying there, I mean, it was ringing bells. And yeah, I mean, one of the things I love most about the small business, and I did do a few temping jobs in much bigger companies, which I think underlined how much I hated it.
Yeah.
It's this fact that in a small business, when there's like a dozen of you, if that, you can see the impact that you are individually having. It almost doesn't matter what it is that you're doing in that business. You can see the effect that has on the whole company. And when you're like one of a million or whatever, I mean, and for some people that's fine because they're not interested in having that from their work. It's literally just a means to an end to pay the bills and do whatever they want to do in their spare time. And that works for people. Great. Happy for them. Doesn't work for me. I have to care about what I'm doing.
I'm on your train completely there, David. Yeah, no, you've put it perfectly. It's seeing the impact. That was what I was referring to when it was like, you can test things and, you have these conversations about strategy, test it, and then watch what happens exactly. Whereas it just takes so much longer. You can be so disjointed from that in other businesses. So SME is where it's at.
Now, not going to lie, that is also a double-edged sword.
Yes, I think we might just discuss this later in the conversation. I agree.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, so we will get into some of the mistakes to avoid later, I'm sure. But I think from a leadership perspective, and I've seen this, I'm sure you have as well, the same thing that I've just said about the impact you can have it works the other way as well. So if there's someone, particularly in a leadership role, I think, who's maybe not the best at it, or they're in it for the wrong reasons, their motives aren't quite as pure and altruistic as they want people to believe, the damage they can do is also disproportionate.
Yes.
And I think this is why I care so much about leadership today, because I've seen how easily it can go wrong. And it's not even malicious usually either. It's just like inattention, or, you know, focusing on the wrong things, or refusing to take advice, you know, and all these kind of old mindsets of I'm the boss, I'm in charge, I decide, that whole thing. Anyway, we'll get more into that later. Much as I love a good tangent, I want to ask you a different question first before we get too much into that, because I want to go back to what you do, and because I find that really interesting. And I think, so something else as well that you've said about the reason we start businesses because we're really good at one thing. I'm so bad at the one thing that you're really good at. So I'd love to hear more about that. Yeah. So like, how does your process work? Like, what kind of companies do you work with today? Do you have a particular, I hate this word, but do you have a niche?
A niche. Well, yeah. I mean, these niches are definitely important for sort of hooking people's attention and allowing yourself to stand out. I think really my niche has always been that I'm a telemarketing expert, because that's the last sort of longest role that I held before I ran my own business, and it still forms a massive part of the work that I deliver today. Having real conversations. The world of telemarketing has changed dramatically over the last 5 years, particularly since COVID and the working at home changes and things, but also just with trends and the fact that, it's just not as easy to necessarily get hold of people in the same way as we used to. But yeah, what's at its core is having real conversations with real people. And there is, as far as I can see, AI is not going to remove that from our practices of that sort of, selling and customer relationship management, which is just so key. So yeah, really everything that I do is wrapped up in the fact that it is helping people to grow, enabling people to grow their businesses. And again, some of the best aspects of this are because I get to solve problems. There's nothing like having a buzz of finding a fix and improving people's systems and generating business for people to help them grow and achieve their goals. If then we're all winning. And so, the fix is that that people don't have a steady pipeline, and they're not managing to attract the right kind of customers or enough of them. And so, coming in and forming a strategy, and just the best thing is, particularly with these small businesses, is just seeing the weight lifted from their shoulders when we start to work together, and they're just like, oh, you're just going to handle that. Okay, you're just going to do that. Great. It's great. I love that. And then when you get to present them with a lead, I found this person, they're really interested in X, Y, and Z, and then they have the conversation, and we're there to turn it into into a great customer for them, and then you get to see that relationship or that contract over time, and see again how it impacts the development of their business. I love that side of things. So seeing other people's success and being part of what empowers it and enables it is really awesome for me. But also on a more sort of personal level, being able to work to my own agenda, running my own business. I really struggled, despite having sort of relative success within my career beforehand. I did struggle with having to conform to the norms of the 9 to 5 and being in an office all the time, So I guess that's something that I really enjoy and benefit from. And I guess, it's another leadership thing really, that good leaders will identify how people best perform. And yeah, at points I had people who weren't tuned into that or didn't want to give time, spend time on recognizing it. And I get to set the rules now, so
Yes.
to a degree.
Yes. Yeah. Somebody asked me yesterday what the question I was going to ask you actually, which is what's the best thing about what you do? And for me, I think the answer was freedom. It's exactly what you've just said. Yes. It's like I don't have to conform to someone else's idea of how I should do something.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what that says about me or my views on leadership either, because there is a whole. Yeah, I don't know. I don't see myself as a nonconformist or an anarchist or anything like that. But so I like to think of it in the terms of it says more about the last job I had than it does about what I do now. But again, maybe that's unfair. I don't know. It's just an interesting thing.
Yeah, some of us are free spirits in a way, and and it's not that we're anti rules and structures. It's just that maybe we prefer to be a little bit creative with that. But yeah, I don't know if I sort of talked about my process enough for you there. I maybe didn't delve into that enough.
You're welcome to keep going. I'll happily listen. I find it very interesting, and I might learn something. So.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think it's probably it's very, very similar to most. So many other businesses in that really it's about that discovery phase at the beginning, about making sure that you've asked all of the right questions to be able to form the right kind of strategy and then draft into place the right people and systems, and just making sure that communication is always key, having those catch-up calls to make sure everybody's on the same page.
Fair enough. Yeah. Yeah, and with, again, parallel to leadership there, massively. Understanding the problem, making sure you understand everyone's point of view, ask the right questions.
Yeah.
And then check in with people.
Reflect and show that you've actually listened by, putting the learnings into what you then do.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that note, so from 9 years in business then, what would be the top 3 mistakes that you learned to avoid?
Wow. Yes. Oh my goodness. I think this is quite a difficult one to consider, really, because I feel like obviously without making the mistakes yourself, you don't get the opportunity to sort of learn properly. It doesn't have the same sort of impact on you. So, making mistakes is good. It's just, obviously there are some you could avoid. So I think for me is a very tricky one to prevent, because I think it's probably a bit of a personality thing. Some people are sort of naturally cut out for it and others aren't. And I would say that I have been too trusting of people in the past. And I think that I now know that it's because I'm on the spectrum and I have autism and ADHD, and I'm, that's just part of my personality. But I now understand why this happens for me, that I can often take people at face value, and and this can mean that some people can take advantage. So I made some mishires, which were, quite costly. And that's so weird because, I was an HR manager. This was part of my role. I was recruiting for people all the time, and I made great hires that made the business so much difference for the business that I was working for. But I think the difference was that I had at least one director to be sort of bouncing and reflecting with. And when I was on my own, I always had a coach and a mentor, but the nature of these things is that, maybe they weren't involved in these sort of decisions. Of course they weren't. It was my business. I was running the decisions. So I would, I would say that having someone to sort of bounce these things with, having a sounding board, to make the decision with and reflect on, would be something that I would do differently now. Although I don't actually employ people now, I use freelancers, and that actually makes it all different. Because I think that, the freelancers tend to have a different sort of mindset and more of an entrepreneurial sort of spirit, and they tend to be a bit more dedicated because they're in turn running their own business. There's
no,
more,
they get it, don't they?
More at stake.
But also, I mean, it's lower stakes. It's a lot easier to part ways with them if you have to.
Exactly, precisely. You
Yeah.
don't have to navigate all those hurdles.
Yeah. Do you think another reason why there was a difference between when you were doing it as an HR manager and when you're doing it for yourself? I don't know if this is true for you. I mean, I've not had to employ anyone either. I also rely on freelancers when I need them. But I feel like when it's for your own business, you tend to lead more with that hopeful aspect, and that can lead you into maybe trusting more than you should on occasion.
Yeah, hope. Yeah,
because you're more positive about it, aren't you? And it's like, this is your baby, as it were, in inverted commas. That's a horrible cliche, but you know what I mean.
No. It's a cliche that makes so much sense. I agree. Yeah, that's an interesting one. So seeing the hope and the potential, and just wanting to believe in somebody, and they can be saying all the right things, but I think just to do more due diligence on it is the one, really. And also to trust your gut. This is something I've learned over time, is to trust your instincts more. If there's something that seems a little bit off, there's probably a reason for that. And, either get a coach or a mentor, someone that you can bounce the decision with, or do more due diligence, or all of that, really, to protect yourself. I always found enforcing someone else's rules as an employee, and having a team, or when I was in HR, I always found that so much easier than laying down and enforcing my own. I think that's interesting about the hope factor. I wonder why else, but
I think it's a lot easier when it's someone else's rules as well, because you can literally say, I don't make the rules, it's not my fault, I'm just doing as I'm told.
The passing of accountability. Hilarious.
Absolutely.
Okay. And then what? So the other thing I would say, and again, this is probably just maybe personal for me, but try not to rush. It's like you have to find that balance between, I don't want to miss the opportunity, and I want to be agile, and I want to make the most of this, but also weighing up the bigger scheme of things, and not, just taking a breath, taking a breather before maybe pressing the button on something. It just takes time and experience before you can really trust yourself and know, understand your moves, really. And then the other one I would say is and this might sound really obvious, but have a contingency for cash flow. One thing small business always seems to have a problem with is cash flow. And when you've got other mouths to feed, and I would say that's something I unfortunately didn't have, and that definitely caused me problems early on. Easier said than done sometimes, but
yes, I mean, that last one, I still struggle with that now. Month in, month out, I'm still in that sort of the peaks and troughs. It's it is a difficult one, and I don't know any business owner who hasn't struggled with that, to be fair.
No, and this is true. Every business owner you talk to all experience it, no matter big or small, and it does teach you the hard way. But if you can possibly trust that, make sure you have a contingency for when this happens, it will definitely make things smoother for you.
Absolutely. And then your second one, which we didn't talk about yet, mind blank, but
the rushing, don't
the rushing, yes. So that reminds me of a few conversations I've had recently. So there was one business coach I spoke to a few weeks ago, and he had this way of dealing with this, which is, again, like, it's so simple, but it just doesn't always occur to you in the moment. And that's just like when it's a big decision, or any decision really, where there's going to be any sort of financial or future aspect to it, don't make a snap decision, but B, like sleep on it for at least a couple of days.
Exactly. Something as simple as just sleep on it. One
Yeah.
more day. Is the world really going to end if you tell someone, look, I will come back to you tomorrow, instead of feeling like you have to be on it?
Exactly.
when you get back today?
Or next week even.
Yes.
And I think there's that whole thing, isn't there, around this entrepreneurial culture, that the toxic side of that, and the way it's presented by a lot of these types on social media, and the gurus, that dreaded phrase about, decisiveness and quick action, and that's what lets you be a millionaire, and all of this. It's nonsense. It has to be. It can't be true.
It can't be on all fronts. That, anything that's really got major stakes attached, these decisions are not made at the snap of a finger. All the shooting from the hip stuff.
Absolutely. And especially if you're talking at like that level of financial result, nobody, I refuse to believe that people are making decisions like that at like the snap of a finger, and without doing any due diligence, without doing any research, without anything, just like a gut feeling for potentially a 6-figure decision.
I know.
Nonsense.
I know. You're
Don't
right.
believe that for a minute.
And something that's just come to mind also is that actually, if someone isn't going to be patient and allow you to wait and do something else or whatever, there's a diplomatic way of discussing these things, then isn't that probably a bit of a red flag that maybe they wouldn't be the best people to work with anyway?
Massive one.
If you're being pressured,
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's understandable, especially at certain times of the year or towards a quarter end or something, and they've got targets to hit, and they're probably getting all sorts of pressure and everything. But equally, like, if you want me to make a decision on your time frame when you're selling me something, I mean, as a customer, as a buyer, that just doesn't sit well with me, and it will result in me saying no.
Yeah, exactly. And then everybody's losing, aren't they? So if you want to find the best solution for all, it's just, and it just feeds back into that communication thing. If you're, careful with how you ask about these things, then any reasonable person should cut you a bit of slack.
I think so. Yeah. Certainly anyone who's invested in a long-term relationship with you will. So I think it goes back to what you said about not rushing into decisions, though, because again, this whole, I blame social media for a lot of stuff. I need to stop doing that. It's going to get me in trouble. But there's this horrible like perception, isn't there, that if you're a business owner, that you make decisions fast, that you run before you can walk, that you move swiftly, and this misunderstanding of the word decisiveness and all of that. And I do think, nothing's going to happen overnight. If you want long-term success, you've got to plan long-term, and you can't expect to be like a billionaire or even a 6-figure business overnight. You've got to take your time, put the right things in place, one step at a time, and actually think about these decisions.
Yeah, I agree. Let things percolate. That whole sleeping on it, like you said, we don't know why we need this sleep and what happens when we're asleep, but it works, doesn't it? You wake up with a fresh perspective.
Yeah.
And that might be that you've clarified it. Yep, go for it. But it might be some questions to ask before you make the next move,
Definitely. Yeah. There's probably some scientific neurochemistry explanation for it, but I don't know what it is.
No.
Yeah.
I'd love to know.
There's the thing with memory as well, isn't there? Like sleeping is when you like back up the hard drive, isn't it? Everything goes from the short term to the long term. I don't know if it's relevant to that or not, but that's like the sole fact I know about how brains and sleep work. So I just said it.
It's quite a good one, David. It's quite a good one. And, maybe you need that because you need it to be processed and put in this other little area. There could have been things in that memory that you just didn't focus on until it landed.
Yeah. So a slight tangent, but I think it is a bit relevant. So I was at a networking meeting yesterday. Do you know Jodie Newman?
I do. Yes.
Yeah. So actually, she's been on the podcast recently as well. So one of these ideas that we were talking about in that meeting yesterday was about whether you're a creative and ideas person and you're good at that, or you're an execution person and you're good at that.
You can be both.
Well,
yeah.
so this is it. So, and most people were saying they're really good at the ideas and they can execute. And then we got to the halfway point, because we were going around the room, everyone answering it. Got to the halfway point and somebody said both and neither. And then after that, it was like everyone was, yeah, actually it's both, but it depends when. And yeah. So, and when you're in a room full of business owners, and most of them are solopreneurs, if not all of them, I think, I thought that was quite interesting, because, yeah, and how we view ourselves as well. Like, do you think of yourself as creative? Like, I traditionally don't. I've always been the executor, the get the stuff done, get things delivered. But then I've also gone into business by myself, knowing full well that I can't just do that, because there's all the stuff before that for that to happen, and I've got to do it all.
Yeah. I would say we all have both. I guess maybe it's a spectrum then, and we just are slightly more weighted on one side than the other. Ooh, a great topic. So you would have thought that you yourself would have been less creative, but then on reflection, you realised, well, look, I've set up my own business. I'm running a podcast and all of these other magical things for people. Actually, I must be quite creative.
I think it's how we define it, isn't it? And how we're taught what that means, which is, again, something that Jodie talks about way more eloquently than I can. But I mean, a lot of it goes back to school, doesn't it? So, like, I was always pushed into the scientific subjects, the humanities. I was never interested in things like art and drama and anything that was defined as creative.
Yes.
Right? But actually, I think creativity is about more than that, isn't it? It encompasses like innovation and ideas, and just like the way of doing things as well. You can be creative in the way you approach a problem, for example.
Yeah. Like outside of the norm, as you say, being more innovative. Yeah, gosh, I mean, I would definitely put myself in the creative camp, but I know that I'm also completer, finisher, or whatever they're called. I really get stuff done as well. So it can become a little bit of a burden when you've got all the ideas and you know how to get them finished, and then you get overwhelmed. It's like, where does God do it?
Yeah. So a problem I have with this, and it happens to me a lot, I hope I'm not the only one. When I'm in the middle of like delivering something and I should be focusing on the execution, that's when all my best ideas pop in. And then when I have like nothing to deliver, the ideas dry up and I'm just like, well, I want to execute this one, but I can't yet because I don't have that. And so they never happen at the right moment for me. It's always the opposite.
The pressure. You're just going to have to develop a method or some sort of tool that can intervene and record more when you're in flow state and you're getting all of these ideas, so you can draw from that pot.
Absolutely.
When you're at a creatively dry spell.
I never get ideas when I have time to do something with them. That's the problem I have.
Just typical. The muse doesn't discriminate.
Definitely. Anyway, so I mean, last question on this sort of section of our conversation, and we've potentially already answered it, but so we talked about the mistakes. What is like the one most important thing that every business owner should do?
Yeah, okay. Well, we sort of have, but there's also one thing we haven't talked about. So I was thinking, oh my God, the one thing every business owner or founder should do, that is just so difficult to put your finger on, because I would say that you need to be 100% committed. You need to have a really firm strategy and have that obsessive vision, I think. And you need to ensure that you're surrounded by phenomenal people who are, in my opinion, need to be way more talented than you, different to you, so that you can add to the diversity. You need to give yourself time sort of doing the things that you love, to try and balance the hard work and the long hours that you are going to have to put in, no bones about it. You've got to look after your health. And so, because if you don't have your health, and I know from having gone through burnout about 5 years ago, there's nothing, no one can support you. Nothing can be done about that. You can't support anybody else, so you need to be able to set expectations and not be too hard on yourself. Maybe don't give second chances, but then that could be a bit harsh. That rash decision thing. Being in a leader in an SME, as I say, need to be very agile and make decisions fast, but be prepared to lose certain gambles to make your hand stronger. But there are so many things, but that one core pillar is, I think, look after your health. And that seems weird because it's not necessarily, well, it is a leadership thing because it is leading by example, and you can't be a good leader if you can't function properly mentally and physically. You can't deliver excellence to your clients and the people around you. So I think it's just the bedrock, personally.
Yeah, it's difficult to disagree with you. Yeah,
it's not a traditional answer on leadership, I know.
Well, so I have heard it a few times before, and so it becomes a debate for me, because leadership, to my way of thinking of it, or at least until recent years, and so the way I always tried to practice it, was you always put the team first.
Yes. Yeah.
However, in the context of burnout and everything we've been through in COVID, and just like the general stigma around mental health in leadership and in businesses, I am coming around to a different way of thinking about that, because you're absolutely right. A big part of putting people first is showing them the behaviour that you expect of them by doing it yourself. So if you can't do that with their health, with your health, like, why should they look after themselves? And the silly examples are things like that old-fashioned approach where you would always, and I used to do this, like, you try to always be the first one of your team who's in the office every day, and make sure that if you're not the last person out, then you leave at the same time as the person who is.
I was always the last out. Yes, yeah. Exactly.
And that, it seems like a really simple and easy thing to do, to show that, you're leading by example and that you're there with them and you're supporting them. But actually, I mean, that can have horrible impacts.
Oh, it was very detrimental.
Yeah, because everyone works to different pace and times. And I've learned about myself since, now being in business by myself, like, there are times of the day where I'm really, really good at detailed, focused work, and there are other times of the day where I need to go and do something else, or have a nap, or whatever, it depends on the day.
The siestas. Oh.
So forcing yourself to do like a 12-hour day and try to maintain that focus, it just doesn't work. And trying to compete or keep up with people in your team who probably have very different phases of their day. So there's one guy I used to work with who you could never get anything useful out of him before like 10:30 in the morning. But
he needed a few extra coffees.
Yeah, but he would keep working at a consistent level of productivity until like 8 or 9 in the evening, and the work wouldn't suffer. And that was his zone. He was perfect at that. So for me, having like the opposite almost, trying to keep up. It's harmful, I think, and it didn't do me any favors. I'm sure that contributed to burnout for me as well.
Yeah, that's the thing. We try and keep up with those around us, because you have to in these competitive environments. If you're ambitious, you want to achieve more. But actually, there is a balance to be had, isn't there?
Yeah. I mean, even putting aside the ambition side of it, like, it's quite easy to see that as the right thing to do if you're in the leadership position.
Yeah.
And I used to be quite critical of people who left early, if they left at the time they're meant to leave.
Well, I know, so did I.
Like, there are other team leaders who are going home at 5:30. I'll be like, oh, they're not working very hard.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're like,
they can't possibly have finished. What
yeah. So, maybe they actually had the right idea and I was doing the wrong thing, probably.
No, I don't know. But that was when I was employed. But when I was employing people, I made sure they left. And oh my gosh, some of them did want to work crazy hours. And I was constantly telling them, you have to take your holiday. You have to do, please do not look at your emails. I was really trying to enforce that, because I learned the hard way that that was a better way to be.
Definitely. Yeah. And I mean, there's a whole like organizational culture aspect to this, isn't there? About
yes.
And it is really tricky, and I think this is why so many businesses and leaders go wrong with it. But it's setting it up in a way that it's perceived correctly and that people understand. And that, it's, you know, it's a expectations versus what that means in practice and what you actually have to do. Because I mean, most businesses, I think we get lost and stuck in these ideas of like 9 to 5, and if you're not at the desk, and presenteeism and all that sort of thing, because
Yes.
A, because that's easy, B, because it's the way it's always been, which is a horrible logic, and I hate that as well. But I think there's also this thing of, if you actually sit down and think about it, 99 out of 100 businesses, what they really care about is the result, the output. And where they go wrong is getting confused or disagreeing about the means to achieve that.
Yeah.
Because if you have someone who they are super productive at night time for whatever reason, and you're forcing them to be in the office 9 to 5, you're never going to get the best work out of them. But if you give them that flexibility, let them work from home, they can do whatever hours they want as long as the deadline's met and you get the right output.
Yeah.
That's all you should care about. I've said this before. But.
No, I'm fully on board with this, and this is my thoughts exactly, and that's why flexible working and things like this need to be maintained and encouraged. I know there's a big drive for everybody to be going back to the office, but it doesn't work for everybody, and it should be about, exactly as you say, the results. It's doesn't matter if it takes someone 7 hours to do something or it takes someone 4. If you're getting the same result, it doesn't matter. I just yeah.
I mean, there's another can of worms there, isn't there?
Well, really.
I feel like the person who can do it in 4 hours should get paid more, but not less.
No, quite. Oh no, but if they then don't do anything, so they would be getting paid more. Don't do anything.
Well, if they're paid by the hour. It's interesting. I'm going to put the lid back on that particular can of worms because we talked about it before, and it's and there's no answer. It's impossible at this stage.
Keep going around in circles.
So, I mean, this leads us into some of the leadership questions, and we've probably touched on some of these already, but what would you say is the biggest leadership lesson that you've learned in your whole career so far?
Yeah, I would definitely say, we have talked about this, but in leading by example, I mean, this is a tricky one because it can verge into the things we were just talking about burnout and stuff. But my work ethic is rarely outshone, and I always worked with these owners of businesses who had the same sort of work ethic, and although that can lead down a negative path, I think you have to be walking your talk, and you cannot be a hypocrite. You have to you can't expect people to do things you're not willing to do yourself, but the underpinning this, and I nearly put this before instead of health, but it just seems so obvious, is the communication factor, that without having that good opportunities for communication and demonstrating that you've understood and bothering to make changes from suggestions and things. I learned a lot of this through my HR work and how to engage your workforce. That's really key. So I've had a lot of, unfortunately, poor leadership moments from within businesses who, I was helping them grow their businesses by thousands per month, and they chose, in one occasion, there was a statutory minimum wage rise, and I asked if I could have a wage rise because the minimum had gone up, and I was given the 5 pence per hour. I mean, how to demoralise your staff member. Just could you not have seen that as an opportunity to say well done and give a little bit more? But so I guess from watching like the inspirational leaders on the other side who really walked their talk and encouraged and got to know you personally, made time for you, got to learn what made you tick, invested in your professional development, and allowed time for cultural stuff, sort of social cultural stuff outside as well. For me personally, that was an important thing. Obviously not everybody would want that, but having fun with your workmates and getting to know each other properly, being given those opportunities, that made a more cohesive workforce, and we were able to do so much more. So that communication factor is the key one, really. It's weird because some of the worst leadership experiences have been from leaders who also had this other side to them, and they were massively inspirational and they taught me so much. So I think these maverick innovators, they quite often have that double-edged sword stuff, because, you know, when they did communicate and they listened and they showed empathy and they bothered to actually praise where praise was due and, you know, recognize the achievement, then they were awesome. So I had those moments, and, you know, not just the moments where I might have been, you know, berated in a room for taking poor notes or something, which happened once. Since then, I've been told that my notes are brilliant. So, you know, didn't have that much of an impact. But yeah, I would say that it can, normally people that have got a lot going on, leaders often have, you know, they have a lot of pressure, and being able to understand the reasons why they might be treating you in a certain way is a good way of not being a victim or thinking that it's your fault or whatever. But yeah, so I guess really those opportunities for good communication, that's the best.
Yeah. I mean, I see what you're saying, and yeah, I mean, we should have empathy for leaders because it is a difficult job and they do have other stresses on them that you don't see. But at the same time, I also am not convinced that that the onus should be on the people being led to have empathy in a difficult situation. Like,
No.
You know, it's it's an interesting one. So, not to get political, but I was reading the other day about some of the stuff that's going on in the States right now, particularly around DEI.
Yeah.
And all that.
Which around DEI, did you say?
Yeah. So the diversity, equity, inclusion, and the way a lot of that's being walked back, or so it seems in some of the articles. Others deny it, so who knows what to believe. But anyway, what I did think was quite interesting, though, and I think it speaks to this point a little bit, because there's that thing with companies where the profit motive is the first priority, like, or giving value to the shareholders, however you want to explain it. And what that usually results in is we will do whatever the minimum is that's legally required of the business, and we'll do nothing else, no further. We won't spend any more on this. Now, for me, when it comes to things like the greater good, another cliche, but so like DEI or environmental concerns or workers' rights, anything like that. And this is a really easy and sweeping statement to make. I recognise that before I say it, but I think that's a bit of a red flag. If they only do the minimum that's legally required, that means they don't care about these things. They're doing it because it's the law, and if they don't, the government will fine them. So they don't actually care. So they don't care about diversity, or they don't care about their people, or they're not bothered about climate change. And I think there's a parallel there for leaders as well. If you're only doing like the minimum required to get people to show up, do the work and go away and not complain, then you're probably not a very good leader.
I agree. You have to truly care, don't you?
I think so. I've always thought so. And this is controversial for some reason. I mean, I've had blowout arguments with people I've worked with in the past about this kind of thing, where it's like, well, it's not my job to care. I'm paying them to do a job. They show up, they do the job. And you're just like, yeah, but
people are understanding then that, and then how? Yeah, because everything's connected. You know? Absolutely.
And I think it comes down to your priorities and what you understand about how people actually operate. Because if you're putting those people first, it delivers so many other dividends to the rest of your business. Like whatever it is you care about, if it is just the shareholders, you're going to please them more, because happy people deliver better results. They're more productive.
Yeah, exactly. It's been really short-sighted, isn't it?
Isn't it?
Yeah. To think that the bare minimum will surely get you the bare minimum. If you go one step further, you're going to bring in one step higher, further. What? Yeah.
It's one of those things where I'm on the fence. 50% of me understands it and why it happens, and the other 50% is like, no, why is this happening? This is wrong.
Yeah, no, we get it. And I just think that it should be second nature to want to include people and treat the planet kindly and do things. Why are we even? I know social value and all of this is so important, and sustainability. So we have to have these rules in place that mean you have to be ticking these boxes. But you should, any good leadership should be thinking that should be part of the picture anyway. Yeah,
I think so. Yeah, I mean, so there's one leader I encountered many years ago, and he used to tell this story about how when he was growing up, his dad basically said to him, like, make sure you're the boss. Don't let other people just tell you what to do. And yet, as a business owner, that's exactly what he expected everyone else to do. It's like, so you don't want it for yourself, but you'll happily impose it on all these people who work for you. Isn't it? Yeah. Anyway, mustn't grumble. So changing tack then, what would you say has been the best experience you've ever had of being led?
Yeah, this one's definitely an easy one for me. So I had a fantastic boss at the last employed position I had, or last proper employed position I had, which was it was one of the very few female bosses I had, and she was called Lucy. She ran the business called Gung Ho Marketing, which has since been sold for some 5 million or something, I've heard. Well done. But yeah, it was the telemarketing business where I looked after technology clients, little team calling all around the world. And it was the first time, the reason it was the best is because it was the first time I was really trusted. I was, of course I was trusted before. I was in positions of enormous trust, but she saw my maturity. She gave me chances to really prove myself. And I was just enabled to make decisions, empowered. She bothered to praise. She put into our professional development. She spent time talking with me and taking on board my advice and suggestions. Simple things like having a really great office environment, lots of questions being asked of us and then listened to. And she allowed me to take the lead, actually, and it flourished for all of us. And she was very inspirational and taught me so much that I use in business today. So I'm very grateful for that time.
Well, sounds like she was ticking all the boxes, definitely.
She was.
And a good contrast to everything we said just now.
Yeah, exactly. And she was really good at restraining herself despite the pressure. And, there were, of course, no one's, we're all fallible. There were, of course, moments where I'm sure I wish that she hadn't said or acted in the way she had. But on the whole, no, she was very good at keeping things back. And good driver for the business.
I'm rolling out all of my cliches today, but it makes me think of this other one about.
I love them.
Yeah, so anyone can lead when things are easy, right? It's the true test is when it's difficult, when it's challenging. And I think when we talk about things like, having the emotional intelligence to hold back saying from like the worst thing you could in that situation, for example, or knowing when to praise, knowing when to stand between people and harm, or whatever form that takes. All of these things, when everything's going well, it's really easy to be a magnanimous leader and pat people on the back and do all these other things. It's when things get stressful, when something hasn't quite worked in the way you expected or the way you wanted. And I think this is why a lot of these sort of purpose or idea-driven founders, I think that's why they can almost have like that, the split personality thing, can't they? Because when they feel great about their idea and their business and they know that things are driving forward and progress is happening, they're excited, they're happy. It's really easy to be like, this is great, guys. They can be that inspirational leader, like the example you talked about. And then when something's not quite gone to plan, I find anyway, my experience of these sorts of people, that's when the other side of the personality comes out and they don't necessarily know how to deal with it in the right way.
Yeah, so being a good leader is being able to have that in measured form, being able to...
Yeah, I think so. And I think it measured at both ends of that scale, though, because sometimes that excessive enthusiasm, that can be equally exhausting, can't it?
Yeah, I definitely fall into that camp often, but I agree.
Yeah. Okay, this next question I think is the most difficult one I ever ask, but I don't know. Let's see what your opinion on it is. If you could start your career over again, is there anything you would do differently?
Yeah, it definitely is a tough one. I mean, I would say that I'm grateful for all the things that have happened to me. They've made me who I am, and they've given me the skills and the knowledge I've got. And yeah, as I say, I'm thankful for that. But if I could start over again and go back to my teenage years, I would have, I would have ignored, unfortunately, one of my parents' advice. I would have gone to university. I would have left my hometown. I would have not let people in my life who controlled my decisions do that. I would have trusted myself. I'd have made a bid for freedom when I first felt the pull at about 17. But I don't have regrets as such. I think, I'm making up for lost time now. But I would have gone down that path. Got an education, definitely.
I mean, you never know. If you had done that, you might not have ended up where you are now.
Exactly. Who knows?
You might not have felt that pull later in life. So
no,
it's a tough one.
Yeah, exactly. It's all theoretical, isn't it? But I think if I could go back to those forks in the road, I'd have had more belief in myself and taken my own decisions earlier on.
Yeah. I mean, it's never too late if you want to go back to uni or whatever.
This is true. I'm a frustrated geologist inside. I would definitely. I would love to be doing that or botany half the time. Yeah, I would love to go into academia and do that, but maybe there will be the opportunity at some point.
Yeah. So someone who's done both. So I did the bachelor's degree way back when I was late teens, early 20s. And then only like 3, 4, 5 years ago, I did a master's. I got so much more out of the more recent degree and that whole experience because I in my youth, I don't think my mindset was there. I was doing it because I thought I had to.
Yeah.
I was even the subject I'd chosen, like I was vaguely interested in it, but it wasn't, it was politics. Like I was never going to make that into my career. I was just doing it to tick the box. But also, I don't know, the impetuousness of youth or something. Another cliche, I know. I should have had a bingo card for these, shouldn't I? But by contrast, I don't think I really learned very much from that experience. Whereas the one I did more recently, because I chose to do it, because it was a subject I was genuinely interested in. And I think I was a lot more mature, let's be honest. I'd grown up a lot. Yeah. So I could see it for the value it had. And I embraced it a lot more, and I found I got a lot more out of it.
Interesting. Maybe that's the thing then. I think I should have done that because it's maybe what I would have liked to do once I'd become an adult and learn the things I've learned. But actually then I wasn't ready for it.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been the right decision. That's great that you have been able to make time for that adult education.
Well, COVID helped.
Opportunity. Yes. What a
stuck at home with not much to do. Yeah. That probably is a lot of why my mindset was different as well, because it made me feel like I was doing something useful.
Yeah, well, it was useful, enriching your brain.
Yeah, when there wasn't a lot of work going at that time. So anyway, I guess my point is now might be a better time of life to do that sort of thing anyway.
Yes.
So
yes,
there you go.
I concur.
No pressure. But
oh my gosh, yeah, I'd have to definitely not be doing certain other things in my life to make room for it. But
yeah, well,
it's always there.
It's part-time ways of doing it, aren't there?
Yeah.
Takes 5 years instead of 2 or something,
Yeah.
Anyway, no pressure. We're not into peer pressure here. I've only got one question left, but it's my favourite one, which is why I save it till last.
Yeah.
So it's leadership heroes.
Leadership heroes.
If you had to pick one person, it could be anyone you could think of, so alive or dead, past or present, real or even fictitious, but it has to be someone who, in your opinion, would perfectly embody leadership. So who would that be for you, and why?
Well, So I really couldn't decide on one, so I've got two here. But I know, I guess if I had to pick the one.
Tell me what they are and then I'll make you pick one.
Okay, one is Neytiri from Avatar, like lead female protagonist, and then the other one, who you will know well, Jean-Luc Picard.
I think you should go with the first one because no one's picked her before.
Oh, really? Oh, cool. Oh, other people have picked Jean-Luc? I mean, of course.
Loads of people, yeah. I think he's in he's definitely in the top 5 of ones that come up the most often.
As he should be. Okay, but yeah, with her in particular, this wonderful fictional character who actually, embodies so many souls from this real world we live in. I think she is super strong. She is super fearless. She's got intense emotional intelligence, but she's also very strategic. She is very loyal. These are all aspects that I, admire and but the one thing is, she has her vision. She's absolutely obsessed by it. She's set on it. She goes out and achieves it, and she inspires and empowers everybody to come along with her and try and achieve it. So I would say that, yeah. And she's just so cool, isn't she?
So I have a confession to make. I've only seen it once, and it was way back when it first came out in the cinema. It was when the 3D glasses were the first.
Yes.
And I haven't seen the second one.
Oh, definitely worth watching. I
Is
mean,
it?
Yeah, for me, just spectacular. But yes, if you can see it if it's being reshown in a cinema, it's made for that big screen, big sound systems. But I saw it. Did you see it in an IMAX with those?
Don't think so. No, because we just saw it at the local one. That's a thing we haven't done since COVID as well. It's the cinema. Weird.
Wow. There we go. This is another thing to add to your to-do list, but
isn't it?
Yeah. So I'm not surprised at all that Jean-Luc was picked by everybody, because he is just the really charismatic, diplomatic, kind, calm, just all of these amazing things. But yeah, I thought she would fit the bill.
Definitely. I'm seeing a lot of comparisons lately to, again, mostly on social media, but comparing him and Kirk, and I think Kirk has an unfairly earned bad reputation, because when you can, there's all these throwaway remarks about how he's had a woman on every planet and he's sexist and old-fashioned. Well, yes, but also if you go back and watch it all, you compare it to Picard, who actually does have a woman in nearly every episode, and who started a fight in his teens and ended up having a heart transplant and all these other things. He was the real bad boy. Look at Kirk. His first instinct is usually a conversation or diplomacy. Yes. He only fights when he's given no choice.
Yes.
He always consults his colleagues before he makes decisions. Not in the same way as Picard does with the whole meeting room, but still. Anyway, so I think there's an unfair comparison being made, but maybe that's just because I was brought up with the original series.
Yeah, maybe so. But I mean, I was considering Kirk, but the thing that stopped me from putting that drawing that into the conversation was the sort of, I don't know, sexist, womanizing bits, but they're very, very small and few, and it was a product of its era. But I think, what really embodies these awesome leaders is part of it is their charisma, and I think that's something that really the best leaders they have it naturally. Yes, it can be coached and it can be encouraged and it can be built upon, but I think it's just that little je ne sais quoi. These not leaders.
No, definitely. I think Star Trek is a big influence on me and my view of leadership, as people can probably tell just by looking at the logo, to be fair.
So cool.
But I think, it's always been ahead of its time in things that matter. So, we look at original series. You could read some of it as a bit sexist, but then they had a woman as an officer on the bridge of a starship at a time when, in real life, pretty sure, I'll have to check this, but I'm pretty sure women weren't allowed to serve in most of the US military at the time.
Yeah. Let alone women of colour, which...
Well, absolutely, yeah. Even, I was going to say, yeah, that was my next point. And then my third point, it's all right, no, it's good. We're on the same wavelength.
We are.
The third point, like at the height of the Cold War, they had a Russian as the navigator in Star Trek, right? So, and yeah, anyway. And then, I mean, next gen, so we talked about burnout earlier, mental health is a big stigma to it. They had a counsellor on the bridge of the Enterprise, the flagship. So it's always been ahead of its time, which is why I love it.
Yeah, same. No, we should all be more Trek.
Anyway, I will go and watch Avatar again, though.
Yes, feedback, what you think.
Yeah, I'll try and get hold of the second one as well, but no promises.
Enjoy it. Get the popcorn in.
Well, it's been lovely talking to you today, as it always is. Thank you for being with us. One small final question I have for you. If anyone wants to get in touch, or if they're looking for support with their sales and marketing, what's the links? Where can they go?
Of course. Oh, well, thank you, David. I have thoroughly enjoyed being on today and having this conversation with you and getting to talk about this topic that's so close to both of our hearts. So thank you. Yes, if anybody would like to get in touch with me, my name is Emma Friendship-Kilburn. And I would say get me on LinkedIn, or you can go to EmmPower.com. But yeah, always up for having a discussion about your next strategy to grow your SME. But yeah, I've really enjoyed today, and I hope that people get some ideas spurned from our conversation.
I'm sure they will, likewise. And I will, of course, put the links in the episode description so everyone can find it easily.
Fantastic.
Awesome. Well, have a great rest of your day. I'm sure we'll speak again soon.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, David.
Emma, it's always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you again so much for your time today. Really enjoyed that discussion, and we touched on so many important and relevant topics for the leader of today. Listeners and viewers, if you would like to learn more about Emma and her work, if you're looking for some support for your SME with sales and marketing, you will find the website and a few social links as well in the show notes below. So do click on those links, reach out, learn more things. And if leadership is something you're looking to learn more about, get some support with, then you are in the right place for that as well. Do visit the website. It's www.leadingwithintegrity.co.uk. And as soon as you get there, I highly recommend right now, go to the resources page, click on the leadership quiz, fill that in. You might learn something about yourself and your leadership. It will also help you pick out a sci-fi themed leadership hero. Again, the results may surprise you. Highly recommend that. It's supposed to be a bit of fun, and feedback appreciated as well. You can also find on the homepage a green button to come and join us at the Integrity Leaders online leadership community. And I look forward to welcoming you aboard very soon. Thank you so much for being with us today. Really appreciate your time and your support of this podcast. It would not be here without you, listener, without you, viewer. And I hope you found it useful, entertaining, and engaging. All of the above, all of the buzzwords right now. Fill out that bingo card as always. Do join me again next week for another conversation with another solopreneur about leadership, business, and more. Until then, be a leader, not a boss.